Hello, everybody. Welcome to NUFC Talk TV. I'm Chris, the American Mag. Of course, you already know. We got Gary. The Mighty Win should be joining at any moment, given time. I don't know he's late, but we got a special guest. Of course, you've seen him on a weekly basis on the Magpie Channel podcast. Of course, seen him with Matty there, and a lot of you have watched him already. So we got him here to give us his takes on what's going on with Eddie Howe, the one and only Keg. What's going on, mate?
Buongiorno, everyone. How are you doing? Good to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Of course, man. Lovely to have you on, man. You got good stuff going on there with Matty. Good channel, good podcast, of course. Where do you guys shoot that at? At a
Anarchy Brewery. So it's a brewery
Yeah.
in Newcastle. Yeah, they give us their tap room every Tuesday night. So yeah, the cool guys over there. We do a lot of collaboration stuff with them. Obviously, the guys that make the War beer in collaboration with War Flags.
Yeah.
They're a great group of guys over there. They're very accommodating. So yeah, they let us into their tap room. They close it down for us every Tuesday night. So yeah, it's cool. Good setup.
Good stuff.
Better
man.
backdrop
Good
than
stuff.
ours, I'll tell you now.
Good stuff, man. Good. So if you have a question in the chat for Keg, put a Q in front of it. We'll get to it. But the title of this show is there an inside job on Eddie? And I know that's provocative. I mean, do we have a base to say that? Probably not. But it's a talk show. We're here to talk, and there's some foundation to bring this up because of the statements that Paul Mitchell came out and said not fit for purpose, and then he says that he keeps Eddie updated. He kept him updated the whole transfer window, and then Eddie coming out the next week and saying that I haven't talked to him in weeks, and then something came up, I believe, funny enough, on the Magpie channel. I think Maddie put up a video about the manager for the women's team,
Yeah, Becky.
and how active he is with women's football. Kind of maybe to a similar, I don't know really, of what Amanda was doing. Focus on the women's team. But then I thought, let's be real. Let's be honest with ourselves. We know what Newcastle United is, and you know what the bread and butter is of Newcastle United. And if the football, the Premier League, and the other tournaments, of course, is not going well, fans are not going to be happy. That's just the bottom line. And then I thought, seeing the Magpie Channel's video, and then going around digging Newcastle's official website, I saw statements from the women's manager coach, and she said that they talk on a weekly basis, very close. He's very involved, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? Because there's clearly a disconnect between the men's side and the women's side, and there shouldn't be a competition, but clearly, and well deserved. I mean, the women's need focus, but obviously the men's do too. And to top it all, every match that we obviously do, every watch along here, we see the cameras focuses on any particular given time in the match on three people: Darren Eales, Paul Mitchell, and Bunce, who really, he is there to do a job, but I don't think his job is that of that importance when it comes to the title that they hold. Obviously, he does have an important job, but we know Paul Mitchell and Darren Eales are or should be the head of Newcastle United. And then I thought, what if my conspiracy, senses start tingling? And that's hence the question of the show: could there be an inside job on Eddie? Is the company, are they not compatible? And are we seeing? Because look, football is old as it can be, as old as the mighty Win. And Keg, you're gonna see the mighty Win, man. He's old as dirt. But we kind of see these things coming, and it's happened before in football many a times. Where easily we're letting the manager go. We're not getting transfers in either. That could be another thing. But let me start with Keg. Let me start with you. And what are your thoughts on this whole Mitchell Howe agenda. Obviously, we got Craig Hope reporting 24/7 on it, and a lot of people are criticizing him. I think he's going to do a job. I mean, I think he's got to do a job. I don't think he's there to be a cheerleader for us. He's there to do a job. Whether he's a Newcastle fan or not, it is what it is. But he's there to report, and he's been reporting, along with other reporters as well, that there is a civil war. And what is your whole take on this whole situation? Obviously, the way we started the season is not helping at all, is it?
No, definitely not. And it's a weird one. It's a strange one to really kind of get your head around, because the people like Craig Hope, like your Keith Downeys, your Lee Riders, all of these journalists, whoever else you can name, there's a bunch of them out there. They all have kind of like an inside source, and they're very closely connected to the club. So 99% of the things that they come out with, it's believable, because you know that they've got whispers, like they've got like people within inside the club that are telling them these things. They're not just going out on a whim and just making up a headline like they're working for the Sun, like some shitty newspaper that do just make things up. Like you've kind of got to believe them, because if you can't believe them, who else really can you believe?
Exactly.
But on the other hand, like I just genuinely haven't got a clue what is going on at the club right now. Like there just seems to be a disconnect. Like a major thing, I think, within any team of any sports in the world, any franchise, American, whatever it is, like there needs to be an alignment. Like those from the top down, from the owners, like general managers, the sporting directors, the managers, head coaches, there needs to be an alignment. Everybody needs to be on the same page. And I feel like we're there. I feel like with Amanda and Merdad, with Dan Ashworth, and like even when Darren Eales came in with the Saudis, like we all seem to kind of be on the same page, and we're pulling in the same direction, wanting the best for the club, being quite cautious in every transfer window. We never went and spent silly money. Not like when you look at Chelsea in whatever it was, 2003 or something, when Roman Abramovich took over, and Man City when they had their money, they were just splashing the cash because they could. Like our hands are very, very tied because of FFP and the PSR and all that rubbish that doesn't even make any sense anymore. So yeah, we're being very cautious, but also spending good money. Isak, club record fee, about 64 million. A lot of money, but a bargain. And we've got bargains in Bruno, in Gordon, in Botman. Like we haven't spent crazy money on anyone. I don't really think anyone's been overvalued. Maybe it's when you get down to like, Chris Woods and Matt Targetts may have overspent a little bit there, but 15 million for Matt Targett wasn't a lot. You can't grumble. We bought Chris Wood for 25 and sold him for 15. You helped us stay up. So that 10 million differential was money well spent, in my opinion. So yeah, we haven't gone crazy, but I think with the whole Dan Ashworth thing, that kind of pulled the plug out a little bit. Like I think we're just like running on a very smooth track, and then Dan Ashworth decided to be a bit of a dickhead. He wanted to get out of it. He was suckered in by the highlight of Man United as if it was 2002. And yeah, I think that was a bit of a downfall. I don't really know what the whole Staveley and Merdad thing was all about. Like there's been talks about an unrest with Darren Eales and things like that. Paul Mitchell. Like it's just hard to know what's happened, but that just seems to be a huge disconnect now. Like I don't feel like we're all pulling in the same direction now. I think with Paul Mitchell coming in, Ashworth and Amanda leaving, it has just kind of gone into a bit of a rocky path right now. And as you say, we haven't spent any money. We haven't bought anybody. And I know our hands were tied, but there was money to spend because we were going to offer 70 million for Mark Gahey. We offered 50 million for Anthony Alanga. So there was money to spend. But it just feels like nobody was pulling in the same direction. We're not on the same trajectory anymore. Like we've just gone very askew. And as you say, with the performances, I know we've only lost one game in 6. Right. So results-wise, we're looking good. But performance-wise, I don't think we've played well all season. I think we've been absolutely terrible. We're lucky to only have one loss in 6. So yeah, there just seems to be a huge problem at the minute, and I don't know if that is with Eddie Howe. Maybe he's a little bit pissed off and stubborn. Maybe his connection with Paul Mitchell isn't what we thought. Maybe he's Amanda not being there. Like everyone's just kind of gone off on a tangent. Like when the boss goes out for the week and everyone takes the piss at work, like that kind of feels like what it's like at the minute.
What it's like, yeah.
I just don't know what's going on, but we need to get back aligned as soon as possible, hopefully before January. The results are coming, even if the performances aren't. If we can keep up winning, or at least picking up points and doing well in the league, once we get to January, we need to be aligned. Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell need to identify some targets. There needs to be money there to spend, and we need to improve this team as soon as possible.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, spot on a lot of things you're saying. You know, my main concern is, what is the lifespan that we have at this moment before everything blows up? Because the results have been keeping this to a certain extent a small issue, smaller. But if we don't get the results moving forward, we got Man City coming up. That ain't gonna be easy. And then you got Wimbledon, of course. And so if we don't win that, then it's gonna be a big problem. But also, Eddie, don't you think Eddie is kind of maybe shooting himself in the foot? He's not making it, certainly not making it easier. He's had issues reportedly had issues with Ashworth. Wasn't comfortable with him being there in the moment. I remember, because I remember everything, and people don't talk about it now. But when Lewis Hall came, he wasn't played at all, and people were saying, "Well, that's an Ashworth signing. Eddie doesn't want him," and people were asking for somebody on that left side. Byrne kept getting played on that left side, and now Tonali, you know, he doesn't play him, and I just don't understand. He puts Joe Willock. It almost feels like, all right, you guys want to change? I'm going to make a change, but I'm not going to put the ones you tell me to put on the. It almost feels like, you know, and granted, I'm not saying that he needs to listen to the fans. I mean, obviously he's there to do a job, but any fan, I don't know what you think, but any fan, I would assume the majority would see that Tonali is the other best midfielder that we have on that side. So that's my thing. You know, how long can we keep going with everybody not being on the same page? Is the biggest question. You know, I know Gary K, you guys want to jump in that?
I mean, to be fair, I mean, Kegg's hit on the nail. The biggest problem you have is, you know, we just seem to have lost our identity on and off the field. The game on the field's totally changed now. Whether that's influenced by James Bunce because of all the injuries that we had last year, who knows? The biggest thing that is witnessed to everybody is none of the bigwigs that sit in the audience week in, week out ever look as though they're enjoying what's in front of them. And the question you've got to ask yourself is the fact that Eddie and his way isn't the boardroom way now. Because if you think of all of the big clubs, and I've alluded to this before, every other big club, if you take the big six, the DOF has signed the manager.
Yep.
Eddie Howe is obviously under Amanda's management. And is there an issue there? Is it the fact that Eddie still is looking at Newcastle as not a big club yet? Because obviously he still wants the power as he had at Burnley and at Bournemouth. And we all know, and hence the backroom staff know, because they've brought in people now to support him in his head coach role, and that's his role. The biggest problem is, since all this conversation has happened, both in Germany and carried on here, where Eddie Howe saying that he's not in contact with Paul Mitchell through the transfer window. Paul Mitchell saying he's speaking to him more than he's speaking to his wife. It just doesn't make sense, and it certainly doesn't make great public viewing, because every single person that watches these videos are all asking the same question: where are we going as a club? Because until you get unity, you haven't got united. And that's what you can actually, you know, you can visually see it now. And I said during one of our shows is the fact that I ain't bothered about what happens in the back room as long as it doesn't affect the team. And if I'm honest with you, it looks very much like now it's affecting the team. So something has to be done. But who do you point the finger at? Now, like I said, Darren Eales was quite comfortable at the stack, jumping in front of the crowd and getting them all buoyant. He doesn't seem to be that comfortable by getting these two buggers together and banging their heads together. and asking them to get on with it. And I think that's the problem. We need to have some clarity of whether, like Keg has just said, January is not that far away, and discussions need to be starting sooner rather than later about the type of targets that they're going for. We saw and we've seen, everybody's now questioning whether the 4-3-3 system isn't working. It's nothing to do with the system. We know the system works. All the big clubs use the same system. Barcelona use the same system. Real Madrid use the same system. The biggest problem is you can be the best manager in the world, head coach. But unless you've got the players that are willing to go out there and sweat blood and tears for you and put that system together, you're never going to win anything. And at this present moment in time, the players just aren't putting together on the field what Eddie Howe is asking them to do in training week in, week out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Like for me, I think Eddie Howe looks like deflated. Like I think his attitude's
Body language
changed.
is gone, hasn't it?
Yeah, like in press conferences, he just seems like he'd rather not be there. And every time he gives an answer, it always kind of seems a bit negative, or he just kind of. I know he's always kind of played things off if it comes to like transfer talk or injuries or something. Yeah, exactly. he always tries to like deflect it very well, but he's always got a bit of like a charisma about him. But now I just think he seems like very like abrupt, and he just doesn't seem to have the personality that he did last year. So yeah, I think psychologically something within Eddie Howe's certainly gone wrong, and I don't know if it's his frustration at the transfer window or if it is like a civil war within the club, if it is disagreements with Mitchell, Eales, or disappointment at Staveley, or whatever it is. Something's not right, and we aren't playing like an Eddie Howe team. Like since the moment he walked through the door, he established an identity, playing the same formation. I think from day one.
Absolutely.
I think it was the Brentford 3-1 game at home where he actually missed because he had COVID. I went to that game. We've always played the same formation, and we've always played really, really well.
It's a transitional 4-3-3, though, isn't it, Kay? I know we say a 4-3-3, but like I said, we know that it's a fluid 4-3-3. Sometimes it goes to a 3-2-5. Sometimes it goes to a 5-4-1 or a 4-5-1. So it's not just a strict 4-3-3. And that's what I'm saying. Eddie Howe is quite happy to put a system in place to work with the opposition. But it just doesn't seem to have been working with the opposition recently. I mean, you've got to understand, against Forest, they put their second string 10 against us.
But the thing, my biggest question is that those problems in the offices or back room, the issue with Mitchell and Eales and Eddie, is that really? How does that relate to on the pitch, though? I mean, I don't. I mean, I think in the long run it could, from the lack of signings and everything. But why is everybody not playing good? Yesterday, I was listening to the guys do the review, and the question came up. Well, Amanda's gone, and she brought unity, and then the players. What? I mean, all play. If I said this, if players are not playing good because Amanda and Meredith left, we need to fumigate everybody immediately. Because, I mean, you got a job to do. And these are not little kids, man. Come on.
No, exactly.
You're getting paid big wages to be big boys. Like, you're professionals. Get on with the job. If there's a change in head coach, happens a lot. Look at Chelsea, Spurs, the sack managers like it's going out of fashion. Like, you're still there. You can't have too much loyalty to a manager. At the end of the day, it's Newcastle United that pays the wages. The money doesn't come out of Eddie Howe's pocket. It comes out of Newcastle United's pocket. Like, your contract is contracted to Newcastle United. Eddie Howe's just a pawn within the club, really. So it doesn't matter if you had loyalty to Howe or Staveley or Ashworth or whoever it is, like, you're employed by Newcastle United. Work as if that's the case.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable because all players are not. I mean, all of them not performing well. I mean, I thought I could say Pope last match, but then he's the one probably responsible for the second goal, which is unbelievable. I mean, not a single player is playing good. We've gotten results, but it's you can't stick with we've gotten results, we've won, because how long is that going to last? How long are you going to keep playing badly and getting results? Well, it didn't work with Fulham. It might work with Wimbledon, hopefully. But is that going to work with Man City? I believe we got Chelsea coming up soon as well after Everton.
We have.
There's
a few hard games coming up now, apart from the Everton, if you want to class the Everton game as not a hard game, because at the minute they're fighting for everything. And this is what I'm saying. The biggest problem we have now is we've plateaued, regardless of how we look at it. we've plateaued in performance. We've scraped out results, and we were third, dropped down to sixth. But if we continue down this vein, we could see ourselves outside the top 10 in the next 5 games quite comfortably if other results go around us. And what I look at there is, I had a message come through from my cousin who lives up the northeast, and he said to me, "Is this Eddie's way out? Is he looking for the sack? Does he want to go to the England job?" But I'm like, "No, I can't see it. Eddie's too proud to be that type of person." But then you start questioning it, because it seems to have all started from the questions about the England job, doesn't it? So then you do start questioning whether he is thinking of something else while he's trying to put plans together. I mean, I can't see it, and I don't want to think that way, but you certainly can't rule it out while it's still actually on the cards. Because at the end of the day, Carsley's only an interim manager, and until that job is actually gone, you can't rule that out.
No.
Do you, Keg, do you think that Eddie, I mean, is he the guy though? Let's be honest with each other. Is he going to be the guy that wins the trophy for Newcastle United? I mean, he's got us to really good positions before, obviously Champions League, all that saved us from relegation. But I mean, is he going to be that guy where you give? Because clearly, from what we see, we can only speculate. From what we see, he likes to have control. He likes to have, he likes to be able to have a say on everything football related. And so, is he the guy though that you give all the trust and that you have him running football? I mean, Paul Mitch is there now, so you would have to probably sack him, which would be embarrassing to be fair after not even a year. But is he the guy that you give, like maybe a Sir Alex Ferguson and Man U, or maybe a Pep, which we're getting to elite names here. Is he that guy to take Newcastle United to that level?
I'd like to think so. I really do hope so. And as you said, we have come so close. He took us to our first final in over 20 years, and we got to the Champions League for the first time in 20 years. So he's doing better things than any other manager has before since back into the late 90s. But it's just, can he take us to that next level? And I don't even necessarily think it's in his hands. Like, I think we need to continue performing on the field first and foremost, the way that we have over the past couple of years, obviously minus this season so far into the first 6 games. We play well, and I like his style, and I think everybody fights for him. I think having a good manager behind you that you're willing to fight for and perform for is half the battle. Like, look at some of the disrest at like Chelsea and Spurs over the years. Like, with their managers, some people just don't click. Man United, they're another example.
Another one, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think everybody does like and respect and appreciate Eddie Howe. So I do feel like his style can win us a trophy, whether that be Carabao or FA Cup. I don't see him winning us the Premier League or the Champions League. I think we've got to go for one of the domestic cups first, just as that band-aid, just rip that 60-year burden off of us, just get that away, exactly, and then focus on the future. But yeah, I think Eddie Howe can lead us to success. But how much is a bit of a different question. Like, when we had the takeover, all we really needed to do was get rid of Steve Bruce. That was point number 1. Get rid of that idiot as fast as possible. And we replaced him with Eddie Howe, who I think at the time was maybe a little bit of an underwhelming signing because we had big European names like Unai Emery linked. So when it was Eddie Howe, who had been out of work for like 2 years, and he was last known to get relegated with Bournemouth, it was like, is that the best we can do? Was that the Saudis' plan? Is Eddie Howe really it? But then I think he startled all of us. I don't think anybody expected Eddie Howe to be how good he was. And I think them 2 years that he spent out learning under it was at Simeone, spent some time at Atletico, traveling Europe, learning different plans. Like, he wasn't sitting on his arse on Marbella Beach like what Steve Bruce would have been doing. Like, he was working during them 2 years. He was learning things, developing his craft. So the Newcastle Eddie Howe isn't the Bournemouth Eddie Howe. He's a different animal. Them 2 years out of work helped his career massively. But still, is he going to be the guy? Like, I know we've had the takeover where we've got that target. We're technically the richest club in the world. So everybody expected us to be fighting for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Is Eddie Howe that guy? Again, I hope so. But truthfully, I can't see it. But that's fine, because I think all Eddie Howe was brought in to do was to steady the ship. And he's more than done that. He's past his job expectation by far. So we've gone further than we ever thought that we could have under Eddie Howe. But I think, he's just brought in to steady the ship and take us away from the bottom three. And he got us into the Champions League. He's done a superb job. And that's why I want him to stay on for longer. But if you think about Man City, they kind of had like a bit of a mini takeover before the big takeover. I think it was like a Thai takeover, like a couple of years before the Dubai takeover. So like during that time between the two takeovers, they didn't win things with their first manager. It was Roberto Mancini won their first Premier League. They went through Kevin Keegan, Mark Hughes, Sven-Goran Eriksson. Like it took time for Man City to develop. They didn't win anything in the first year, 2-3 years. It took a little bit of time buying players like your Craig Bellamy's, your Shea Givens, your Gareth Barry's, like people like that, just kind of put a little bit of infrastructure to develop. That's what we done with like your Dan Burns and your Chris Woods and your Nick Popes and people like that. So for me, the time is going to come where we will be there. We've just got to get past this FFP bollocks and make money. Like, that's the thing. We weren't making money previously because no one was paying to watch Steve Bruce's shite. Right. Mike Ashley's rubbish. Like, we weren't making money. We still aren't making Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal money. We're miles behind them guys still. Like, we need to build an infrastructure, which is what we've been doing quietly for the past 3 years. But we've still got a long way to go. So, I think if we want to win a Premier League, we aren't going to win one within the next 3 years, say. So Eddie Howe will do me fine for the next 2-3 years, continue the development, and then maybe move on to a bigger name, kind of more proven European-worthy manager. And then he will win us a league trophy, maybe it's a Champions League trophy. But for me, I think Eddie Howe can win a domestic cup within the next couple of years, but we just need the money to come in to spend. We need to just continue to develop this team and buy better and better players, because we're still stuck with not great. Like, we've just got rid of Paul Dummett, for God's sakes. Like, we've still got bang average players at the bottom of the depth chart.
But then we renew Gillespie, and then the goalkeeper.
Well, that's exactly what I mean. We've got like 6 goalkeepers, and like, who's even going to play? Like, where did Odysseas Vlachodimos or whatever the hell he's called come from? Like, we've got Mark Gillespie. I'm surprised we didn't re-sign Karius just for the crack.
For the crack of it,
We've still got Dubravka. I thought he was going to go.
He's still free, apparently, if you want him. I mean, he's
wouldn't be surprised. Why not? Get him in the under 21s, even though he's about 49. I just don't know what is going on, but we need to get it sorted quick. Once we can get back on a parallel, Eddie Howe can do a phenomenal job for another 2-3 years. But is he going to be the guy to move us to a consistent top 4 team, a knockout caliber Champions League team, a top 3 Premier League worthy team? I don't think so. He's a great option short term, but for us to be deadly serious, to go like a Mancini, a Mourinho, Conte, Guardiola route, he's not that level.
It's going to be tough.
I agree with everything you've just said there, buddy. Thanks,
AJ. Thank you. Please hit the like, folks. Hit the like button. Go on, Gary.
No, I agree with everything you've just said there, buddy. But my concern is, can he do it with Paul Mitchell? Because these guys need to work together.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, we need to get the background stuff sorted. As I say, like, as a manager or as a head coach, Eddie Howe can be short-term successful, but he needs the club to help him out. Like, we need to get back to where we were last season with Staveley, with Ashworth. Like, we were spending good money. I say them now are seen as bargains, and your Brunos, Botmans, Isaacs. Like, it was a lot of money, but it's proven worthy. So we've been able to spend well. But I just think right now, coming at the end of the PSR kind of 3-year rotating year, we're just screwed because, like I say, we weren't making money. We need to be able to make money, to spend money. We need everybody to be on the right track, have the same goals and objectives and transfer targets. And we just seem so far away from that right now. Like, it's just been such a huge disconnect. We need to get back on track. Once we're on that track, we can go full steam ahead, win a domestic cup, put all of your trust in Eddie Howe, and you will win us a cup within the next 2-3 years.
And I think you guys were Gary and the Mighty Win were talking in the breakfast show this morning. How and the Mighty Win said, we don't need to sell our best players. which I agree with that in itself. However, how could we already got Adidas? We already got. Well, we don't. We could name the stadium. I guess that could be another thing. But at the end of the day, how much more money can we raise without selling our best players? That's the biggest point.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question, because, and also with that being said, if we don't make, for some reason, if we don't make it to Champions League, I think it would be this. I think that would be the cause of Eddie not being a manager next season for us. Just putting it out there because of just thinking how PIF might think, because with no other tournaments, I mean, you got the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, but you should be able to qualify for Europe, and if you don't, then I think Eddie's going to be in trouble. And
You see,
so
I think for the
because
minute, Chris,
because with that, how do you retain those other guys? It's a domino effect.
Yeah.
How do you
I
retain
think
those guys?
I think though, you see, as you said there, rightly said. I think we're missing out on a trick. It sounds, or it sounds to me as if I ITK there. It looks to me as if they're waiting to see what goes on with Man City, the ruling over the third party system, before they'll address the ground sponsor, the training kit, the training ground, blah blah blah. But to me, why not just get somebody on board if they've got these so-called, Aramco and Saudi Air in the background? Just say, give us 15 million for this year, and just do a very short-term contract to cover this year, and then play on whoever wins at the end of it. So I do think we're missing out on some, and Keg is absolutely bang on. For years and years and years, we've not made any money whatsoever. Ashley was shrewd in the market by sponsoring the ground, didn't give anything to the club, he just took it. And obviously, every player bought, there was a player sold to try and balance the books. The one good thing, obviously, he didn't leave us in a lot of debt. But for me, my conversation with Win earlier was, I don't think, apart from this 50, I think it's 54 million pounds that's in the pot, I don't think we've got a lot more money until an investment of some description, whether that be player sales or, a third party input. We're going to be able to get any more than maybe one player in January, depending on obviously what marquee signing he goes for.
Yeah.
So for me, it is a difficult one to read. Win keeps on saying we've got 130 million. By the way they speak, it doesn't sound like they've got over 100 million at all.
Well,
No,
I mean, we made offers over time. It wasn't going to be all up front, but I mean, you would assume.
Yeah, it was scheduled. I mean, it was 55 million scheduled up to 70 million over a period of time. But obviously, that's when they started to move the goalposts further and further afield, because they just didn't want to sell Gay anyway. So I just couldn't see the point in spending 2 weeks just talking about the same thing that they spoke about the week before.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it is unfortunate that I do feel like we are going to need to sell players soon, and it has been mentioned. It was mentioned before that PSR deadline. I think we're doing very well to keep like our big key marquee signings, like your Gordons and your Brunos, who were linked. Like a lot of teams wanted them, and it's understandable. But because we didn't have European football this year, I thought that might have been a way out. But I think because we're still kind of so early into the takeover projects, like these players have just signed, like only like a couple of years ago, and I think they all understood that it was going to be a long-term goal. I think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little bit by overachieving by getting into the Champions League. Like I think we got there far too early, and that's kind of had a bit of a negative effect on us because everyone expects that year in, year out now. But we shouldn't have gone that far ahead, like a Carabao Cup final in a top four finish. Like we overdone that far too quickly. So we've set an expectation that we can't uphold now. I think if this summer was in 2-3 summers time, then Bruno's, Gordon, Isaacs would have probably been putting in transfer requests because they would have been like, I want to play in the Champions League, and we haven't even gotten into the bloody Conference League. I think we're kind of lucky in that sense. But if that happens again next summer, I think we could be in real danger. But with that danger is, as Gary said, we'd need to sell players. That's the only way to make money. Because pre-takeover, if you look at that squad, nobody wanted to buy our players, and it's understandable because they were all shit. Like we didn't have anybody worth spending. And even if you look around the ones that we've still got now, like Almiron. How much are you going to get for Almiron? Murphy, Lascelles, Dubravka. How much are they worth? Kraft, like all these pre-takeover signings, they're worth nothing, or not enough at least. Anyway, it like was
No.
sold. What was like Maxi? We barely got 20 million for, which I thought was massively undervalued. I felt like we could have got more for Maxi. And everyone else that we've sold, like we're doing really, really good business. To be fair, selling Minter and Anderson, I think we got a lot of money for them too, and that really helped us keep us afloat. So it's good that we kind of sold Anderson, who was only going to be a fringe player. Minter were never seen in the black and white, so we didn't really know what he could be. So we're doing well to get, I think it was about 70 million for the pair of them, and instead of selling like a Gordon or a Bruno. So that was very good business. But to make money, unfortunately, one of them is going to have to go, because you can sell all of them players that I just mentioned. You could sell 6 or 7 players and scrape, 30 million together.
Yeah.
What good's that going to do?
What are you going to get for it?
Yeah, we could sell one marquee player for 100, 120 million, then bang, you're straight in the money. You can turn that around, spend that, like another couple, like a Bruno Botman, 35, 40 million. You can turn that money around and spend it well. But yeah, because just where Mike Ashley left us with no turnover and no sellable players, like we're having to do that by ourselves now. Like Minter was a post takeover signing, and we've already flipped him. Like we just need to just kind of keep flipping players. Unfortunately, like we're building a young core, like Gordons and Isaacs, Botmans. They're very, very young players, and I want these guys to stick around for the next 10, 15 years and make their entire career at Newcastle. But one day, within the next 2-3 years, we're gonna have to sell them before the transfer market goes down. Otherwise, where else is that money going to come from?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I agree.
So yesterday we put up a poll on the community of the channel. 158 people voted. What do you think about the game against Fulham? But obviously, the answers might lead you to what's happening this season. The first answer, disaster. Eddie is running out of time. Second answer, give it time. Eddie will figure it out. 54% voted, give it time. Eddie will figure it out. 46% is a disaster, and Eddie is running out of time. So it's pretty divided, the fan base, just in that, I mean, obviously, given time is winning, but, it's about fans that had nothing, basically. And like Keg was saying, all of a sudden, you got all this, Champions League, you got finals, and then the next season, you expect the same thing. And it's
That's
so
exactly right.
hard. It's so hard. I couldn't even think, what team really, other than Man City right now, governing the Premier League and English football. I don't even know if they made it back to FA Cup or Carabao. They probably did, to be honest. But it's not every team. That doesn't happen with every team. And so maybe a little bit of patience would be needed from the fan base. But you're also asking that to a fan base that's been deprived for years and years. And so it's not a difficult thing what we're going through right now, because fans are not patient at the moment. And again, you can ask for patience, but is it fair? Because these fans, you can't wait any longer, man. You can't. It's been tough. Let's get to the comments and see what people are saying about these subjects. Beer says, "Howe doesn't want anyone interfering." I don't think. I don't think. Whenever I've seen him asked about Ashworth and now Mitchell, he's given a cold answer. Well, we kind of clarify that he's not really.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem that he likes to work with the DOF or anybody above him, to say the least. But also Amanda leaving. Maybe Amanda was the direct contact with Eddie, and now she's gone, and he has to talk with Eels, and maybe the treatment is different. Maybe it's not this boss employee type, cool relationship anymore. Maybe it's more of a cold relationship where everything is by the book, and I'm just giving that example. So it's and this all has happened after Amanda and Meredith left. So although there were rumors about Ashworth as well, and the nephew, etc., Eddie's nephew in there. Niall says Eddie does not like DOF. He never wanted Ashworth either. He also says, does anyone ask Man U, Liverpool, and Man City if they talk to their DOF every day? Well, as far as the press conference is concerned, I mean, you can tell that the reporters are asking. That's all they're asking about, really. It's almost not. It's almost never about the game anymore. It's how do you get along with Ash or Mitchell, and the next question is about Mitchell and just worded different, and so that can't be fun for him. And it's not fair for Eddie also to answer the transfer woes. I mean, obviously he has had, I would assume, some input, but it has to be Darren Neals, who's been really quiet, hasn't said a word. So I also call for the leadership to actually be leaders when things are not going well. He was up there dancing in the stack. I've seen him here when he came to America. Very cool guy, but when things are well, it seems to be that he's a very cool guy. When things are not going well, he's hiding. So you can't do that, you know. And it shouldn't be up to Eddie to answer financial questions or transfer, related questions. It should be Paul Mitchell as well. He should come out. And when he came out and talked, he basically just is everybody's fault except mine. The not fit for purpose, etc. So everybody's kind of washing their hands at this point, man. AG, and I agree. Howe was happy when he had control. When Stavely was there, he needs to learn. Brent, I do believe PIF are looking at Eddie more than we understand at the moment. Mitchell's going nowhere. That's what the fans need to realize. Well, you would expect it so. He just got here, so but
I'd just like to say that I think for me, I think a football manager is dead. I don't think managers exist anymore. For
No,
me, I
exactly.
think Fergie and Wenger were the last two great managers, in my opinion. Like now, it's gone such a business way. Like owners and people like that want far too much control that everybody now is a head coach. Like you're essentially a PE teacher. Unfortunately, you don't have control like what Fergie did. Like Fergie had a say in transfers, identified who he wanted, put his guy, who was David Gill. David Gill would jump on a plane and come back with a signature, and that would be it. Easy job. But now, like, there's too many people involved because it's much more of a business as it was back then. Like, I had a bit of a disconnect with football. I think if it wasn't for the takeover, I probably wouldn't watch football anymore because I was shite sick of watching Newcastle for years and years. And
you watch American football though.
I do. I was more of an NFL fan, like kind of pre-takeover, and like I think if we were still in this position now with Mike Ashley and probably wouldn't have Steve Bruce, it would be some other donkey. Like I probably wouldn't watch it anymore. I'd have lost interest in football. I was losing interest in football for years. The takeover kind of sparked my interest back up because we've had cup finals and we've had Champions League nights, so it's amazing, and I'm enjoying the ride. But that's what we need to realize, that we kind of are like American franchises in terms of like NFL, where they have an owner with the control, and then they have the general manager, and it's the general manager's job to go and just, like, trade for players and go through the draft and whatnot, and then the head coach can have a say, but ultimately it's not up to them. It's not their job to have a say. Like, the general manager's paid to pick players and fill the roster. And that's exactly what football's become now. Like, Eddie Howe doesn't have nothing to do with... He should do, and I disagree with this. Like, I wish we were back in, like, the Fergie Wenger days. Like, I wish one man could have full control. But it doesn't work like that anymore, and that's what fans and Eddie Howe needs to realize. Like, you ain't that guy. You were employed to be a head coach, not a manager.
Not the manager. Yeah, exactly. Like he was at Bournemouth and Burnley. That's the problem, isn't it? It's expectations from both sides. It's expectations from the crowd now, because we've done so well with very limited resources. And if you want, I mean, the other thing you got to think of, supporting Eddie on this venture, he's had 2 windows now where we've bought nobody in.
Yeah.
So his team is still exactly the same team as it was
true
2 years ago.
That is true,
more or less, isn't it?
And a lot of these guys were fighting relegation. Let's be honest. Roger has a question for me. I agree, Keg. Do you think Eddie is comfortable in that role? I don't know what you were saying at the time, but
he has to be. If it's like the head coach job, not like the manager job. Like, you signed the contract. You're a head coach. If you don't like it, resign. Like, let someone else come in. Like, I respect him for wanting more say, and I wish that he did. Like, I'm on Eddie's side in this. Like, I believe that he should, but it's not the case. It's not his job.
No.
Yeah, a lot of people were, though, saying because when Mitchell came out, he said there were other targets, but Eddie wanted Gay. A lot of fans took that as he's stubborn, he's stuck in his ways, and he's not open minded. He doesn't want to work with anybody. So it depends how you take the news, but so a lot of the fans were divided in that sense, and I didn't agree with that because I don't think that you can enforce any player on a manager. You shouldn't be able to because it's my job is on the line. It's Eddie's on the line. Why do I have to play a player that you think is good, but I'm the manager here, or coach, whatever?
Yeah.
Why do I have to play somebody I don't trust? Or I don't think he's good enough. So if he said Mark Gahey or nobody, now I'm sure you can find a lot of comparisons to Mark Gahey, top defenders. But I don't know that he was given those options either. So again, we don't know the whole thing, but I don't think you should enforce a manager. Should be probably a balance, a negotiation, or a conversation.
Yeah.
Look, Eddie, this is what we can get, but what do you think? Do you think he can work? No, I don't think so. I don't think he's good enough, but this guy may be, so has to be some level of understanding. Niall says
that's where the alignment. Sorry, that's where the alignment has to come from, as I was referring to before.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Eddie Howe is very particular. He demands hard running. He puts hard effort into practice. He wants you to run, close down. He wants to put miles in. Like, he's got a very specific mindset towards a player, and that comes to off the field as well. Like, he likes characters in the dressing room. He doesn't like big egos, but he likes people that works hard and runs and presses and does everything that he needs to. So you can't be like Paul Mitchell and be like, oh, by the way, Eddie, I'm signing you X, Y, and Z. Stick him in the team and see what you can do. Like, if he isn't Eddie's type player, then what do you want him to do? Like, it's like banging a square peg into a round hole. Like, you have to have like your own say, which, like I was saying before, I do agree. He should have a say because it's his team at the end of the day. But that's just the kind of way football is now. Like, you don't have a job as you don't have control as a head coach.
And another thing was in the Wolves game, people were saying, well, maybe he was told by Mitchell at halftime, put in Tonali, put in Barnes. I don't believe that 100 whatsoever. But if that ever happen, I think Eddie needs to quit at halftime. Yeah. At halftime.
If anyone's coming from the top down saying do this, do that, I'd be like, nah, I'm the coach. This is my job. Shut up. Like, that's kind of like if you're an NFL fan, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. Like, that's the same way with us. Like, we've got an over control and head coach owner who reportedly makes the decisions from the top down. Like, we just dropped our quarterback. The top news is that came from the top. Like, that's not your job, mate. You employed a coach. It's the coach's decision.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I'm a Chiefs fan, by the way, man. We're going to dominate this league. I used to be a Rams fan. They were in St. Louis where I live, but they moved away. They're the Chargers now. Whatever. More comments. Let me see. Stu says, welcome, Stu, to the channel. 100% Keg. If Almiron outlasts Howe at Newcastle after what he's done for those players, it's a joke. Yeah, I agree with that. Roger says, I'd love, obviously, to win a cup. Also, like to see Eddie Howe win for us.
Yeah, 100%.
That's right. Niall, if we don't make Champions League, we will lose most of our big hitters, and then it's another rebuild to push us back 3 to 5 years. Well, that's why we need to. I think we need to qualify for Europe, man. What is your stance on that? What would be? I know you seem to be a Howe in, which I think a lot of us sensible fans would be. I'm very critical when I see something on the game, but I think that we need to, support, because you can't have this mentality of, okay, sack him, because then what happens after that? You're gonna have who is coming? Who's gonna fix this issue? Because it becomes a bigger issue now when you don't have a manager.
Yeah.
And so, you have to be sensible with that. So I think he needs to obviously stay for the whole season. But what do you think would be a tipping point? Some people say Champions League or Europe, or where are you at in that area?
I disagree with Niall's comment there about Champions League. So I think we need to do better than what we did last year. As I say, we're overachieved with Champions League, but this last year we did underachieve by not getting any form of Europe. So I think for the short term, I think Europa League would do fine. I think Conference League's okay, but not what you want. I think we should be a Europa League team, like around about 6th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I think that's a fine place to be, just outside of the top 4. I don't think we're good enough for that yet, although, let's say, we overachieved 2 years ago. So I think for those that do have the longer term project in mind, like I'm sure most of these players would have been sold a 5-year plan. So I think they would stay for 1 year if we made Europa League. But if we weren't making a forward trajectory to try and break into the top 4, then that could cause a bit of unrest. And yeah, like how it may be sacked, or the likes of Isaac, Bruno, Gordon might think this project isn't quite going the way that I wanted it to be, so I want to leave. But yeah, I think Europa League's fine, and I think most players would be happy with that. But they'd want to continue with that projection and keep moving forward and break top 4 and be a comfortable top 4 side. And if we don't get Europe again, like if we finish 7th, 8th, 9th, that's no good, right? People will start to be either leaving, transfer requesting, or getting fired.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Welcome, PFD Artwork. Haven't seen you in the chat before, so welcome. Says, I would argue the 4-5-1 formation is not working for a lot of clubs. Everyone uses it now, and it's meant football in general has become stale. I don't think we play with 4-5-1 though. We play.
Yeah, we have the mid block, don't we?
Yeah.
When we get our 2 wingers, our left and right wing, drop in as our wide men across the 3. So it becomes a 4-5-1 until we win the ball back. Then it's progressing back upfield. But it hasn't worked very well recently, I must admit.
Mm-hmm.
What, Keg? What do you think about Gordon? And obviously, there's talks about renewing his contract, and we had a massive debate the other day, which is clipped up and will be premiered tomorrow with a mighty win. Me and him disagree on everything. He's obviously he's wrong on 100% of the time, but he thinks that he should be the best paid player in Newcastle. I say he's done it for 1 season. We have PSR issues. How about we wait? He's on 60 grand a week. If you renew him to 120, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But the mighty win wants 200, 300. He wants to make no sense. And so even if you give him 9 million or 10 million a year, that would probably be about 180, 190, whatever it is. That still right now would be the highest paid player.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because obviously some people might say, well, he's not getting paid as much as the others. Is that affecting him mentally? Is the English squad did that affect him in the summer? Does he not want to play on the right now because Eddie's putting him on the right? Because in England he plays on the left because on the right there's Saka, and he's not going to play over Saka at the moment. So, what do you think right now on Gordon? What's affecting him in your opinion, and also if we should give him all that money?
Well, I'll start with that, and I'm kind of on your side. Like, I didn't realize he was only on 60. To be honest, I thought he was more towards the 100k mark. So I'm quite surprised he's only on 60. But no, he should be on 100, 120 easily. 200,
It should
300.
be in front of Matt Target, shouldn't it? At the end of the day.
God, yeah. Like,
exactly.
Our wage list is scattered. Like, it's
shocking,
just
isn't it?
so inconsistent. It's crazy. So yeah, absolutely, he should be on at least 100, like Matt Target, 120. Fine. Yeah, I think he's worth that. Like, you look around the league, there's probably similar players, if not as good players as Gordon on more than that. So yeah, I'd be thinking he's worth that if he can commit his future, so like extend his contract by another 5 years to 120, 140 grand a week. Yeah, I'd be quite happy with that, because I think he is one of them young core players with a big sell-on value as well. So if a big team did want to come in, then we don't end up at that kind of like, oh, well, he's only got 1 year left on his contract or 2 years left on his contract. Maybe we should cash in. Like, if you sign him on a big long-term deal, then if someone wants to come in, then you've got to slap 120 million down starting.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I agree that we should sign him long-term, good wage, a deserved wage, a crazy wage, like 300 grand. No, not. He's
Well, it's reported it's just shy of 9 million, which works out at 180.
Okay. Which still would be the highest, though, wouldn't it?
It's still going to be the highest by 20 mil.
So
yeah, it's a lot of money. But I think he's worth it. Like, I think 300 grand. Yeah, taking the piss a bit with that. Like over 200, nah. Like under 200, okay, I can get away with.
yeah.
But yeah, he's had a bit of a rough time, hasn't he? Yeah, I think someone's just literally put in the comments what I was about to say. The Liverpool link. Like he's a Reds fan. He came from the blue side of Merseyside, but he grew up a Reds fan.
He grew up a Reds fan, yeah.
Yeah, and that link may have turned his head. The 4-minute cameo in the group stage of the Euros is an absolute joke. So I'm sure that maybe has knocked his confidence a little bit. I'm sure he's disappointed in that. And he's came into the season, and it is unfortunate that Harvey Barnes probably has been our best player this season. And this is why we needed to sign a right winger. For me, as a priority. I wasn't bothered about a centre back.
No,
I can put up with Shaw for another year or 2 years. I love Shaw. I'm not bothered about replacing Shaw. We could do with depth, of course. Yeah, a little bit of help, but I'm not bothered about £70 million centre back. I'd rather spend that money on a right winger. So, that's where we've come into this conundrum. We've started the season with Miguel Almiron and Jacob Murphy as your two right wingers. We sold Minter. For me, I was looking at the season like Minter should be our starter. I was a huge fan of him from Feyenoord. So once Minter was sold, it was like Murphy and Almiron. Come on, man. Like, I love Murphy, but is he starting 38 games a season good? Nah, he's not that good. So yeah, I was desperate for a right winger. We didn't sign one. Our two best wingers are both better on the left. So it makes sense that one of them should have maybe tried to move over and adapted to that right side. I think Gordon played a little bit there for Everton, so he's probably the more experienced on that side. They're both right footers, so it should be a relatively easy transition. But yeah, it just hasn't really worked for him. Like Barnes is thriving, but I feel like Gordon would thrive if he was on the left as well. So I don't know if you should maybe change it up for the next game. Maybe try Barnes on the right, but he's our best player.
Barnes did tremendously. Played tremendously for West Brom on the right hand side because he's got a much better left foot than Gordon has. And I think we lose a lot of Gordon playing him on the right, even though you expect with his pace and his guile, he can get around the back of players. Right. You don't see that much of him on the right hand side.
No, and it's strange because it is like a very similar position, and in this day and age, it doesn't really matter what foot you are. It's common to have Almiron, like a left-footed right winger and a right-footed left winger. It's very, very common. But for me, I'm a little bit of an old school. I kind of like the old like Solano and Robert. And like Beckham and Giggs. Like I'm still of the old school mentality that I like my players to play with their foot, but whichever side that they're strongest on. But yeah, like I get it, but yeah, I feel like it should be an easy transition. Like, as a right-footed player, why can't you play right wing? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like I'd like to try Barnes. Like I say, Gordon isn't doing it. Gordon's best position is as a left winger, pure and simple. As you say, Barnes has played there before, but yeah, like. He's currently our best player, most consistent. So do you take him out of that position and maybe potentially lose half a yard with Barnes to try and help Gordon? Like it's a bit of a double-ended sword for Eddie Howe, and it's a difficult one to manage, really. So I've kind of don't envy his choice in that matter. As a fan, it's frustrating that, Gordon probably is one of our best players. I think he's a better player than what Harvey Barnes is. But at the minute, Harvey Barnes is massively outperforming him, and that maybe is to do with him playing on taking his kind of left wing spot.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. It's 10 p.m. We're an hour mark. Keg, it's been lovely to have you on the channel, mate. You know, you've been amazing. Where can we find you? Because you're busy. Do you have a American football podcast?
Not my own podcast. I've got my own channel, but I do a lot of like collaborations and stuff. Okay. So yeah, I've just come back from Carolina. So DMs are going off the hook at the minute. So yeah, I've got a lot lined up. I've done quite a lot over the past couple of months coming into the season, which started 3 weeks ago. So done a lot of pre-shows, then had me trip on plan. So yeah, now I'm back. I'm getting a lot more requests. So yeah, I do American football based content, but yeah, me personal socials. If you want to listen to any of me NFL based content, just follow the Magpie. The Panthers Magpie, I get them mixed up because I kept the element of the Magpie channel in there. So I get them mixed up when I'm trying to explain it. So yeah, the Panthers Magpie is my Carolina Panthers based content on Instagram and Twitter. follow that to find anything more about any of my YouTube collaborations. A lot of podcasts going out on Apple Music and Spotify. But yeah, personals at KegTMC. That's where you find more about me. But yeah, for your Newcastle United content, go and follow the Magpie channel, where we do a weekly podcast on a Tuesday. This week it's on Wednesday because of the game that has been postponed, that Wimbledon game, but we had it booked in with Anarchy for the Wednesday, so we're not moving it. So it will be on Wednesday this week, but Tuesday every week. So yeah, go tune into that, and they're also up on all main social media platforms and streaming podcast services as well.
There you go, man. Number 33 coming up on Wednesday.
That's right.
Because you got 32. So great stuff. Tell Maddie he's doing an amazing job, of course. So
yeah, he is.
And we'll try to get him on here. Definitely, you need to come back, Keg.
Yeah.
Is your name Keg? Is your name really Keg?
Not legally.
Okay, good. Because I was about to say, man, Keg, that's one hell of a name.
Something that I grew up with from birth. Like I was born with it, but it's not on my birth certificate.
You've been drinking since. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I carry the keg, but I've never been
exactly. Thank you so much, Keg. Appreciate you, man.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
it.
for coming on, mate.
There you go. That was Keg right there. You can follow him at KegTMC on Twitter as well. You know, get him, follow him and stuff. Great guy. And of course the Magpie channel and Matty doing an amazing job over there as well. So we got to carry on. We got another hour, man. We got work. The Mighty Win. I forgot the Mighty Win had a quiz. This is unbelievable. This old guy. No. But this is the thing. We switched. By the way, we switched the Hoof the Twat to Wednesday nights, and we might have something lined up for Tuesdays. Or regardless, there's a new show in the works. Don't know. Yeah. Can't give too many details, but it's in the works. But don't know what the hell we're gonna do tomorrow. So, but regardless, we'll be live. We still got another hour left, so don't go anywhere. But the thing was with this old man, usually on Wednesdays he's got his quiz night, so that's why we were doing it at 11 p.m. so late. And I said, look, we're going too late, man. People trying to sleep, and so we got to do this 9 p.m. And then he says, okay, we switch it to Tuesdays, or rather, the Hoof the Twat goes to Wednesdays 10 p.m. and on Tuesdays, we're good because his quiz night is on Wednesdays. So if he misses, Hoof the Twat is there, so he's not gonna miss anything. This fool tells me that he's got a quiz night on Tuesday now. So which this just this week, but I forgot all about it. And when I texted him, he said he was at the quiz. He said he's won though, so I was hoping he would lose all his money, but there you go. So we're gonna get into some of your comments as well, because that's interesting and great stuff from Keg as well. Again, subscribe to the Magpie channel. I don't think it's not his channel per se, but he is collaborating there as well as other stuff. But if you want to see what Keg has got going, go to his Twitter, Instagram at KegTMC. Terminator here. Tim says, I think it's likely that Mitchell has went in like a bull in a china shop. He said himself he likes healthy disagreements. And I feel there's a probable personality clash. Honestly, don't like PM's vibe, Paul Mitchell's vibe.
That's what I said. I think, unfortunately, he's not got much of a filter, where Eddie Howe has. He's got a cracking poker face. I would like to play poker with Eddie. But Paul Mitchell obviously speaks from the cuff, speaks from the heart. And unfortunately, when you're talking to the press and you're just open, it sometimes comes across as, a little bit of a knock towards Eddie. Now, whether he's meant to do that or whether it literally is just the way it's been perceived, we don't know. But like I say, I understand why a lot of people now are anti-Mitchell, because of obviously they are very much on Eddie's side. And I think that's why you've got that balance now. And I think going forward, this needs to be put to bed sooner rather than later.
Well, yeah. But one of those things that caught my attention was how heavily involved he seems on the women's side, but he doesn't seem much involved on the football side. And so let's take a listen.
Becky said that, didn't she? Yeah, Becky said that.
Well, she didn't say he's not involved in the football side and the men's side, but definitely involved with her in the team. Exactly. And so let's take a listen to what Becky had to say about this particular, thing going on.
Yeah, the new relationships are building really well. I've met with and I'm in frequent contact with Paul Mitchell and James Bunce, who've been really enthusiastic and passionate about the women's team, which is really genuine and really lovely. And their support is is fantastic. They're so knowledgeable, and they just want to help at any opportunity.
Would you look at that? But not only that this is actually fairly. Oh, well, this is 6th of September, so not that long ago, but it is a few weeks ago. But actually, recently she was asked again, and he says, yeah, they talk on a weekly basis. He's very involved in the women's side, which there's nothing wrong with that. However, it is eye catching that when you talk to Howe, he doesn't seem like he talks to him at all. And
No,
I know
exactly.
that Niall says, well, nobody asks Man City or Man United if they talk to to their DOF all the time, which to that you have to plan ahead. And the winter window is going to be here in no time. Literally, is already about to be October, November, December. End of December starts, and then what? Where are your targets? What direction are we headed in our football? How are we going to fix, somewhat the disaster that was this transfer window? It just makes me think on that. I'm not trying to create drama. We're not trying to do that, but we were just having a conversation about what's going on with Newcastle United. And trust me, we've talked about this a lot. If it was just a reporter saying it, we would talk about it. We would do that and then move on. But this has been kept. The fire has been kept alive by
Absolutely.
the protagonists. And so it's not just something that fans are coming up with, and all of a sudden, we're creating something. It is something is happening, and they don't seem to be getting along. But I've also seen teams done well when people don't get along, even teammates. But that's not the rule. So especially in the rebuilding phase. Now, if you tell me right now that Man City, I don't know, their two best players, Rodri and Haaland, hate each other, and they can't see each other. Well, they might get away with it because they already know what to do, and if they have the right mentality, everybody does their job. We don't have to be friends, right? But in a rebuilding phase, I just don't know that is that is the case. So don't know if you want to weigh in on that or.
No, well, it's like I said. The biggest problem is you get one person, obviously behind the scenes saying one thing, and then the person that obviously he's talking about says something else, and straight away alarm bells are going to ring, aren't they? And that's the problem. Everybody picks up on is there issues going on, and all of a sudden we go down that mantle, and we've been talking about it now for weeks. Ever since Craig Hope brought it up in the press conference the second time, and then the third time, and even today, he was going to speak about it again, and it's like, how many times do we have to hear whether these guys are actually on board, or all they need to do is work together, and that's what I said. For me, is it a bit of, I don't know, is it a bit of Eddie's stubbornness, bit of pig-headedness that he's making it sound like he's not actually in contact with Mitchell, even though he is, because that's what we said, before. A lot of this could be put to bed if both of them say the same thing at the same time, rather than one saying one thing and the other one saying something
And
else.
even look, I'm the first person to say I want the truth. I want to know all the truth, and you gotta tell you this in journalist school. Trust no one,
No,
especially in sports journalism. You don't trust what people
absolutely.
tell you. What the manager would tell you, because they're going to tell you what you want to hear. However, looking at it from that side, if they wanted to keep the peace, they should just say, "Look, Eddie Mitchell, say I'm Mitchell, Eddie, or Eddie Mitchell, whatever. Look, for the sake of having peace, say we talk all the time. We let's maintain a level of accuracy on our answers, so people that bothering us, you know what I mean, and it should at least do that. But they don't. They
No,
don't even talk.
exactly.
Um,
That's what I'm saying. It seems a bit crazy that we're still talking about it a few weeks down the line, and like I say, it's not going to go away until two people actually come out there and maybe go to Greg's and get a sausage
exactly.
roll. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And have a coffee together, because I think
Uh,
it's just going to rumble on. But like I say,
yeah.
the next transfer window isn't far away, and I'm sure if we get the same response as we've got from this transfer window, there's going to be things said.
Other positions, obviously, you guys know about this already for obvious reasons, but the Carabao Cup was canceled, and it is confirmed. If you didn't know that it will be played at St. James's Park, which is lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. It was sensible. I thought about it too. I was like, why did they bring it to St. But Wimbledon might have said, well, no, we got to play at home. However, don't know if it's in the rules either. I mean, it might be something in the rules where they say,
they can change venue. The biggest problem is for us to be a 24-hour change. There's got to be a lot of change our end, because obviously ticket sales, policing,
yeah,
things like that, stewards,
right,
workers. It's a lot to do in 24 hours, and that's why they said it couldn't be done this week. But obviously they've gone back. There's obviously some discussions that they will have had between each club about gate prices. They will have a bigger percentage now of the gate price, I would have thought.
Yeah, and Mighty Max says, do you guys think the Cups game will go on public sale?
Yeah, if you go onto the website, I don't know whether you've got it up, Chris. It tells you on there directly what the new system is. I did have a look, but I don't want to just speculate.
I will pull it up and try to find it. But then again, it will be played next Tuesday, so it kind of throw us off. If you're in the background, working in the background, Gary, Mighty Win, might have to explain to the Mighty Win. Everything is all over the place. I try to schedule our streams in order by day, but right now everything is thrown off. One minor change, one match not being played the day it's supposed to, throws everything off. Reactions, post match, everything. So, so bear in mind, you guys don't have to deal with that, but regardless, yeah, the next match will be next. Man City we got in the weekend, which we got to worry about now. I thought this was going to be a good morale thing
I
for
think we
us.
missed this one, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Ian Fleming. Thank you, mate. Says I think Howe could be gone by Christmas. Ooh, Ian Fleming.
I know.
With the spice sauce, man. Ian,
Indeed.
that is not a comment typed by you, man. Maybe your grandkids typed that, man. That was not you, man. That was not you, brother.
That's
going by Christmas. I mean, anything is possible.
Yeah,
but maybe lack of results and stuff like that could definitely.
Yeah, well, like I say, the fixtures aren't kind to us now. The next 5, the first 5 weren't too bad, but the next 5 are a little bit on the saucy side. So let's see.
Exactly. So I'm trying to look it up now. Let me see. Oh, I should go to tickets, right? Tickets and memberships.
Yeah. Well, I think it's got all the explanation on. I had it on screen before. I was meant to say it when we first come on, and it tells you there direct the difference with the Carabao Cup. As you go onto it, it says latest Carabao Cup ties switch to St James's Park.
Yeah, let me
and
see.
Then the ticket information is refunds for supporters with tickets for the original postponed fixture will be processed tomorrow. Season ticket holders who have opted into the Carabao Cup scheme will be emailed tomorrow, and payment will be taken before the weekend. Members and season ticket holders that are not enrolled in the Carabao Cup scheme are eligible to enter the ticket ballot, which will be open at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 24th of September, and close at 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 25th. General sale for members and season ticket holders not enrolled in the Carabao scheme and who do not already have a ticket opens on Thursday, the 26th of September at 10 a.m.
Good stuff. By the way, I don't know if you guys heard about Alan Shearer, saying about the game that was awful from Newcastle. Got what they deserved. Fulham much better. And a lot of Newcastle fans didn't take it lightly. They are kind of like, why is some are saying, why is Alan not being a little more supportive? Again, everybody's got their opinion.
Yeah.
Number 2, he ain't right. He ain't wrong. He's right. So he is right. We were awful. And so I mean, I do get it though. He does have influence obviously on everything Newcastle. So when he says something, it might steer fans to go across the line and go to the dark side, as Mighty Wayne likes to say. But it is what it is, man. And he's also a pundit, so he needs to do his job. It is what it is. And it was an awful game. If he was lying, I would agree with people, but he's not. He's right, man. He's right.
Well, that's what I
Look,
said. When you start looking at the likes of Anthony Gordon giving the ball away 16 times, Bruno Guimaraes giving the ball away 15 times, and it just goes on and on and on. Every single player on the park gave the ball away. Apart from Tino, he gave the ball away, but only a couple of times. Trippier gave the ball away a couple of times. There was very few that gave the ball away less than 5 times.
right. All right. Let's go with comments real quick. We got a
Yeah,
lot of
because
them
we've got a
actually.
few. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go with the start comments. Terminator Seed says, I think it could transmit onto the pitch if the player sense that Howe is clashing with someone else who is trying to wrestle control from him. Come on a journey with me. I'm world class.
I'm in world class. Yeah,
There
indeed.
you go. Michael, NUFC. What boils my piss is there is on 60K plus a week for 45 minutes with a break, match fitness. They're athletes. So he's saying like they don't
The
they don't
players just aren't performing, and they're all
right.
on 60,000 plus a
correct.
week
Yeah.
for 45 minutes work.
All right. Well, they're
Is that
not
fair?
robots.
And that's what I said. I mean, and I think that's another criticism of Eddie this season that we didn't really see last season. And well, he was criticised for it, but he was bringing subs on quite late because the team more or less picked itself, didn't it, with all the
Yeah.
injuries. Now we've got a little bit more of a deeper squad. What seems to be apparent is he doesn't know his strongish 11. What other manager, at half times bringing three and five subs on through, up? You usually see the subs towards the end of the game to close down time and things like that. But at this present moment in time, Eddie's shuffling his cards so many times, around the 45-minute mark, it just makes it look as if he still hasn't really found the perfect 11.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Stu says, Howe hasn't put a foot wrong in front of the cameras in 4 seasons. Mitchell's put his foot in his mouth almost immediately.
Yeah,
Howe's
there you
number
go.
one priority is to make his current squad feel loved and valued, says Stu. Well, it does have a point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe Mitchell has come a little too strong for everybody's liking. So Niall says he cost us Europe with team selections. Man United case in point and
Last
of
season.
last season. Well, I've also criticized Eddie on a lot of of mistakes that I think. Look, nobody knows. I mean, look, how what I thought he's wrong. When I thought he was wrong, I've criticized him. But then again, doesn't make me right to a certain extent. Because he's the manager. He knows exactly the full, everything that's going on in the background. However, I'm still going to say my piece because it is what it is, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. I've criticized him when I needed to, and I do agree with what Niall said on a few things against Milan. I thought that the change of tactics from kept going. There was no game management whatsoever. They counterattack. They killed us on 2 counterattacks. Milan wasn't good at all, but they killed us with 2 counterattacks. You just got to be fast, and they had fast players, and they got it. But I mean,
instead of we only needed the draw, didn't we? And we got
we got the win, and then we got the draw. So it's both.
That's right. It's both exactly. So we just needed to be a bit more better in game management. And like I say, I think Eddie just wanted to go out there and prove the point, but unfortunately, it backfired massively.
Right. Thank you, AG, for the super chat. Stu also says Howe proved himself from the foot of the League 2 to the Premier League. We were in a death spiral when Howe arrived. He had to tell those players he believed in them, and look at the results. I do agree with that too.
Absolutely, you can't fault what Eddie's done at all. And like I said, I'm certainly not one of the Eddie out or even on the dark side at all. All I'm saying is, if his body language suggests that there's issues behind the scenes, then it needs to be sorted. And like I say, and he needs to concentrate on what's happening on the field rather than what's happening in the boardroom.
Exactly.
If it's letting him affect him.
Yeah. And now, how do we hold our Bruno, Tonali, and Isak if we don't get Champions League? Yeah, that's interesting. It'll be hard. Pete Eos is a blagger. What is a blagger? Like
The blagger.
Was that
I mean, it's
an idiot?
somebody who's it could be construed as most things.
Yeah.
An idiot, a liar.
A numpty.
It's a number of things, but not on the
Yeah.
nice side of things.
James Cuff, I think the head coaches in the Premier League might take offense at the PE teacher comparison. Yeah. Well, we know what Kate was trying to say though. Brent, I'm not how out yet. I like how he can bring a team together. I do like the type of player he seems to want to bring in, but at the moment he seems to not have the team alignment yet. Yeah, he does, and at the end of the day, he's getting the results. So that is, I do agree to the mighty win on that. With the mighty win on that, in the sense that he keeps getting the results, is going to keep him with a job. Simple as that.
Mm.
He's going to keep, but the criticism is not going to, get any lighter because at some point it's not going to work, and it's not going to work though. It's not playing bad and getting results. Never, it will never work. Never.
Mm.
At some point you're going to lose, and you're going to lose badly, and you're not going to win. So, it's just a matter of time. Is when. Yeah, really. But it's, as long as he keeps getting results, I guess he will have that that excuse, I guess, or that But it's just I'm sure he's trying, but for some reason every player is not playing well. Every one of them.
And that's what's concerning, isn't it? And that's where I said that's why people are starting to question whether he's lost the dressing room now. And like I say, I have every confidence that he hasn't. We just need to see a performance on the park. To me, I just think it's the way he's trying this new system of his, where he brings your left or right back into the sixth position in an inverted situation to sit alongside Bruno, because we all know playing a three in the middle of the park, especially when you've got one anchor man, there's very few other teams that play with this one anchor man and not try and get more support and bodies around him, because it's the progression of the ball. Apart from that, it's obviously the only way you win games is by holding on to the ball, and that's why the bigger teams do very well. The likes of Man City now is because they don't give the ball away very often.
Right.
But when you come down to the likes of us, as I've just said, when you've got all of your players on the park giving the ball away more than 5 times in a game, then you're on a hiding to nothing, unfortunately. You're always going to get shots against you. And again, it's about percentages. The less shots you have against you, the less chance of scoring. But Eddie needs to put whatever he's trying to say on the field. He needs to put it in, to me, a better way for the lads to work with, because it just doesn't seem as though they are gelling with the commands that Eddie wants.
Mm. Pete, I think Howe has every right to want a major say in players coming and going. Some clubs operate with 100% head coach. Some clubs still give managers a big say as well. Yep. Brant,
because we keep saying he's the only one who's going to get sacked, isn't he?
Exactly. Brant, I live in Carolina. I'm a Colts fan. There you go. Julie's husband, do you think Eddie has been turned with England? His body language is not right, and apparently he has spoken to England, but doesn't want to walk. So is he waiting to be pushed? Well, I mean, just look at it from the monetary type of thing. If he quits, he doesn't get paid anything, and could possibly, if he doesn't come into agreement, could actually get sued. And if he gets sacked, he gets paid every bit of it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a win-win, mate, isn't it? Now, as head coach of anything, you get sacked and you get a big payoff. If you go to the end of your contract and you want to renew, you get a big pay. So it's like I said, it depends on how you look at it. I just hope, like I said, he's just having a little blip, a little me time, because it happens. Like I say, nobody realises the pressures of football, and it is a mental, pressure constantly. And not everybody is mentally strong 24/7, 7 days a week, and just take it out of you. And maybe there has been a little bit of an upheaval that's just affected him, and hopefully in the forthcoming days it snaps, and we get back to what we know we can do.
Mm-hmm. Tony T says, I like the way Chris says, be careful in the watch along.
Yeah,
be careful.
Be careful.
Yeah, man. So something those are natural things that come out when you're commentating the game, and then they become a thing. You know, everybody's starts making fun of you and stuff, which is great. I don't care. You know, so the Mighty Wing makes fun of me when I say lock. No, not locking and loading when that's from deep. But there's another thing that I say. It just comes out natural. But it's all good. Shout out to Julie's husband. Beard says, I'd attack him and send him to Liverpool in a taxi. I think is he talking about Gordon? The bloke seen sulking in our badge. Good player, but nah. Where's our dignity? Should be chasing him out of the club. Well, I mean that's tough though,
hard.
Beard.
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
That's hard one.
I can get your point though. If you know, but you need to try to get him to play better. Now I do agree. If he continues like that, then he needs to go. Obviously, you know, it's just plain and simple. Roger, in my opinion, Gary, the interview's context got so misaligned by many opinions of course, but he's you know.
That's what I'm saying. I agree. I do think, unfortunately, it's been misconstrued to make it a bigger thing than it actually is. But you can't actually say that there's nothing going on because we all know that's not true either.
Yeah. Andrew Bell, only person I've seen that has rattled Eddie slightly more than one is Ryder with stupid questions. I mean, what would he ask, though? I mean, you know, when people are talking, I have no clue. Because one thing, I don't know about any other team. But this is Premier League. Why can't we give interviewers a microphone or something that they can pass around, man? Because
we do at home. It's ours is not so bad when you listen to the interviews. Away from home is totally different. But we've all got mics now, so you can listen to. There's only a couple of them. There's the Irish lad that talks literally. I think the mic's there and he talks over here because he's so far in the background. It's you know, I need to turn the hearing aids up, mate.
But give me an example of what Lee Ryder has been asking lately.
Well, it's like silly questions about you know, obviously the problems between Eels and Howe and Mitchell and stuff like that, and then obviously it then becomes a follow on because Craig Hope then literally follows him with the same question. So Eddie answers like I say, I'm not going to answer that. Then you get the likes of Craig who says exactly the same, and then Eddie says, "Well, I've just answered that." And then you've got him saying something, and I can't go verbatim, but it was like Eddie will say, "Well, you've put words in my mouth, and I haven't said that," you know. So it's like taking subjects out of context, and it's typical journalism when you put it into that word. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I do think that sports journalists have moved away from the sport and feel as though they're going to get a better click. If there's obviously some gossip or something happening in the background that they can get onto and latch onto and get it in the paper as soon as they possibly can, because obviously, like all media, the quicker it's out there, the quicker the clicks.
Yeah, that's right. More comments. Tony T. How would be vague if you ask him what he's having for dinner? Becky says more true. Open. Yeah, that is true. Andy Bale says, so is the match. Yep, we talked about that one. Foxy, Becky making Eddie look bad. Why is it that Mitchell seems to get on with everyone at every club he's been at, apart from Howe? Same situation as Ashworth. Foxy saying,
where's the common denominator there then?
No, because we do look here. I mean, we criticize, you know, Mitchell, but I mean, you also have to understand that if it's the same every time, that means the common denominator is Eddie. So it's, you know, that's the thing, man.
If you've got two immovable objects, which one can you move? That's how it feels to me. You know, which one's lighter?
It's still very tough, though. I mean, sacking Eddie is not an easy decision at the moment.
We should never need to go down them roads. If you've got a decent CEO at the top, surely there should be some discussions between these two about moving the goalposts in the same direction. And I think that's where it seems as if we've literally become stuck in the mud a little bit. Like I say, we've been talking about it now for more weeks than I care to want to talk about it, and we're still rumbling on with the same content. And it's unfortunate because, you know, these buggers just won't let it go. And if they're going to continue to go like this, and like I say, the fans aren't silly. They can see the effects it's having on Eddie. They're starting to see effects. What if it is having? If that's what affecting the team, then they're going to start pointing fingers. And that's, like I say, unfortunately, then you get the Howe out brigade, and we don't want that.
No. I say, he needs to stay on the job this season. I mean, I do believe that is a make or break.
Yeah.
But he needs to give the a full opportunity to prove himself. Well, not prove himself because but get the job done. Simple as that. Jordan for life. I back Eddie Howe 100%. Why shouldn't I? If you played football, if you're letting the team down with performances, be very careful what you wish for. The grass is never green as you think on the other side. Well, listen, sometimes sacking a manager is necessary. I don't think that is the case right now. And I think that it would be, I don't know if it's the majority of fans that want to get Eddie sacked. But, well, I mean, you see it right there on the poll that we did. This is 54, 46 type deal. But I mean, you can tell, man, that if we don't make it to Europe, if you don't make Europe, that is going to be a letdown, man. I'm telling you. And he is in charge. He is in charge. He also says if Howe doesn't change players, he gets accused of favoritism. If he changes players, then fans complain, even though he brings in players the fans want to see, except Tonali, which I don't understand. What do you mean you don't understand, Jordan for life? Because explain yourself, because at the end it feels like you're saying you don't understand why fans want Tonali, because Tonali is the best midfielder alongside maybe Bruno on a good day, and that I think is better than Joe Linton. But so it's not like we're asking for a numpty in the bench to come on just for the sake of stubbornness, or do you say you don't understand why Eddie's not putting him on the pitch? Because but I never asked for. I mean, I don't think people have asked for Willock to come on. There's something going on. I don't know, man. I just don't know. You gonna tell me that Willock is better prepared to play than Tonali, and every other manager that manages Tonali thinks otherwise? It just something doesn't hold water. Something doesn't hold water, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like I said, we could all see it on Saturday when we watched the match, because obviously it was so unbalanced, it was untrue. We conceded that goal, the second goal, because of the unbalance, everybody being on the left wing, leaving a wide open space in midfield for them to literally run into unchallenged, to the point where obviously Trippier was 3-on-1 at one point. So, like I say, it's not about individual players. I mean, I don't care who plays. I seriously do not care from the goalkeeper up until the top man, as long as they all go out there and try. I think if they go out there and try and we lose, you accept it. The lads have been beaten by a better team on the day. Doesn't mean that we're bad. It just means that we've been beaten on the day. And then you can critique where it potentially goes wrong. And that's how I look at it. I mean, I don't particularly say I can't understand or I don't want. If that player that is like we was talking about Tonali, if Willock could have come on board instead of Tonali and played an absolute blinder, you hold your hat up and you say, "Well done." That you've kept an international player on the bench there, but he hasn't. He hasn't proved himself. And now Eddie Howe has come out and blamed himself, saying that he's brought Willock back too soon. And I disagree with that, because I think that's just trying to protect the player. Because you look at every other player that's not performed. What you're going to say about them? Why are they not performing? So I just find it a little bit strange at the minute. But for me, it doesn't matter who plays, as long as they all go on the park and perform.
Yeah. Jordan for life, Chris, I agree. We don't make Europe, then fair enough. Let the season pan out first. It's 5 games, yep. But also, this is the thing, because it gets to be a conundrum trying to explain ourselves we can only speak us as a channel, not everybody else. We are here to a certain extent to do a job. We can't just say we'll have a show once a year at the end of the season. We got to analyze every game, and we got to analyze every piece of news that comes out. A lot of times, it's not pleasant to talk about. It's not pleasant to talk about this over and over again, but there's always something that comes out. You know what I'm saying? And so we are, to a certain extent, have something a job to do. And if we're analyzing, doing a review or doing a reaction of a certain game, we got to talk about what we saw in that game. You know, we can't just put up a show at the end of the season and then, you know, recap all the games and see how it went. We got to talk, you know, on a weekly basis and go from there. So, you know, but I do agree with you that you got to see how the season pans out. And I told you many times, Eddie needs to have this whole season. Simple. No sacking Eddie. None of that should be talked about.
Absolutely not. And that's what I said. I also, like I say, you know, I know Geordie Two for Life is obviously a little bit miffed by what we're saying. And again, I can only speak what I see as a fan. You know, I've been a fan since the late 60s. My first game was 71. But it doesn't mean that I haven't got the right to talk how I feel. You know, and like I say, I do appreciate if my opinions don't sit well in that fine. But like I say, for me, when I say about players coming on at half time, you're changing the whole side around at half time. It isn't me critiquing or criticising Eddie for bringing subs on at half time. What I'm saying to you is, if we see a change like we did at Fulham, he went into a different system. He played a 4-2-1. Going for 4-2-3-1 going forward, and it upset the balance of Fulham. So you have to say, well done. But then all of a sudden, you're starting to move players around the park to try and fit little jigsaw puzzles into different holes. And like I say, for me, that should all be done in the training ground. When you go onto the park, you should have a settled 11 playing in one area, and you should have subs that can come on for those individual areas, not moving players left, right, and centre across the park, because we've seen what happened last season when he did that. It unbalances the entire side. So again, as a fan that saw 11 players underperform, you have to ask the question of, was this a case of Eddie not knowing his proper 11? And that's all it is. It's just a question that I'm asking you, when you have every right to reply to that. But I'm not trying to make it as if I'm coming harsh on Eddie, or I'm not making it as though I'm coming harsh on the team. I'm just asking a question.
Yeah. Jordan Flav also says, Chris, did I say Willock is better than Tonali? No, I didn't. I said I don't understand why Tonali didn't play. Some fans wanted Willock to start in this channel. That's why I wanted to explain your statement, because it could have went either way. Brent says, for me, the most important thing to see this game against City is some kind of progression and effort. I don't care if we lose. I want to see these guys put in an effort. BT says Eel's job is to managing the club's finances, including budgeting, financial planning, and financial reporting. He does not do that. What a chance. Well, we don't know if he doesn't do that, though. How do we know he doesn't do that? I mean, you know, that's not, I don't think that's a fair assessment. But I mean, I would assume if he's not doing that, he would have been sacked yesterday, because PIF, I mean, they need somebody to answer, you know, for everything.
And you've also got to think, Chris, you know, a lot of this turmoil that we see in this season has potentially come from, obviously, previously, and with Amanda and Merdad, because obviously they got us into a situation where financially we were a little bit on the tight side. Now, we needed it, and I'm not saying we didn't need it. So please, people, don't say that, you know, how that works. All I'm saying is, if I look at, you know, where we were before, it puts a lot of pressure on, you know, because we've also, Mitchell has been criticised for not supporting Eddie going forward with purchases. New players coming in, new blood sometimes offer more of an impetus into the side, and it freshens up the side. But if we've not got that ability to go ahead and do that, then, you know, we can't just lay the blame on Eddie, Mitchell, Eels. You've also got to look what's happened previously and say, you know, we're still recovering from that period, and it may take us a couple of months before we can get down to, you know, out of this sticky situation and move forward. I do think sometimes expectations are still very high going on from what's happened previously. And I think we all just need to look at the bigger, wider picture now. And this is a new moment in time, I suppose. Now we've got a new board on, you know, coming on board. And then going forward. And that's what I said. It's got nothing to do with what we've got here and now. I think there's a lot of change still happening. and I
But
still think
you
we
know,
need to smooth certain things out.
yeah, and I agree. And George Flash says, I'm agreeing with you, but you're reading my messages wrong. I'm not disagreeing with anyone.
Uh,
Look, but there's the thing, and I'm not necessarily saying this to you, by the way.
no,
And one
I
thing that we wanted, no, not you, Gary. I'm talking about Jordan for life.
no,
So,
no,
like, one thing that we do in this channel, I don't know how other channels work. One thing that we do in this channel is promote and execute freedom of speech,
absolutely.
right? And if you disagree with me, that's fine. There's nothing, because a lot of people are apologetic about. Look, I'm gonna have to disagree. Man, you don't have to do all of that. Just say what you
Just
say,
apologise.
and
Exactly.
and disagree with me. And I believe that a lot of channels, from what I've seen around, they get banned, they get all that. And I think it's nonsense. So it is what it is. I'm actually being very sensible. I think that Eddie, I don't want to see him going just because for the sake of leaving. But again, results we'll have to see at the end of the season, of course. Mighty
Yeah.
Wayne, look at this. Eels was overseen by Amanda's ineptitude. Now he's a director.
Yeah.
But he was always the CEO. He's never changed titles. From what he's always CEO. When I met him in Nashville,
Yeah.
Newcastle NUFC CEO. He's never changed. Nothing's changed, other than maybe he was doing the office work, and then Amanda was involved in
Yeah. He
whatever.
was the cleric.
Yeah, that's fine. But at the end of the day, he's
He
still
was Amanda's typist.
so he's still doing his same thing though. Mag
Yeah.
debates: do we really want to be hanging on to players like Gordon though, throwing a strap every time he
Yeah.
does not get his way? Well, interesting, but the way he was walking off the pitch was weird to me, because we were down, he was getting subbed off, he started walking off the pitch, and Eddie Howe had to tell him, run. You know what I mean? Get the hell out of the pitch, but you can tell his head is not in the game. What the hell are
Yeah.
you doing, walking off like that, man?
Yeah.
He can
But
tell. You can tell.
again, none of us know the character. We all say when he's done interviews in the past how well he's come across. He speaks very high, with an aptitude of not a young player. He speaks very well, the way he comes across, and for me, he looks. Again, we all know about his body language. You saw it when he first come, when he wanted to take his shirt off and throw it, and Eddie calmed him down and sat him down when he substituted. He's certainly one that he's a very an emotional player, and unfortunately, if you take the emotion out of him, you lose the player. Now, I think at this present moment in time, there's going to be a number of issues with him, and I think it all stems to him going to the Euros. I think he expected to play more than 4 minutes, and I think that's knocked his confidence massively. I
Mm.
think he's come back to us. He's not really had a break from football apart from 2 weeks, and that's in 2 seasons. So mentally, he's probably still very low mood. Again, I don't know him as a person. I'm only assuming this is the case. So please don't point a finger and shoot at me, saying you don't know what you're talking about. I'm only surmising. But if you are a very mental type of player where you literally live, breathe, and think the game and expect to play at the highest level you possibly can, which he's always alluded to in all of his interviews, and you don't get there, then it's a confidence knocker, and he's going to come straight back down. Now, whichever way you mass this up, if we are now suffering from somebody else's problem, Eddie now has to show his support, love, and gratitude to this lad. And if it means taking him out the team for the game, take him out the team for the game. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that he's a bad player. It just means sometimes you need to come away from it rather than the constant stress of playing, and especially when you're performing poorly, like he is at the moment, because all you're doing is knocking whatever confidence there lower and lower. So sometimes it's about coming out of the team altogether and not being even on the bench. Go and have a week in a spa, because you'll get a better player the week after.
Yep. Good points, of course. But we gotta go. We gotta go. Great
Yeah.
stuff. Great show. Thank you, Keg, for coming on. Thank all of you for coming on the chat as well. It was great. And you know, if we agree to disagree or disagree to
Yeah,
agree,
it's
it's all good,
there's
man.
no
It's all
harm.
good
There's
and
no malice
lovely.
there. Like I say,
And
I love GTL L4. I do, to be fair,
oh
simply
yeah,
because I love.
GTL is good, man.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I said. I love him throwing that curveball in because for me, this is how we move forward. It's about moving with the players, and I like to try and give a rationale for why I say what I do. It's not me disagreeing with him. I'm just trying to give a rationale for my opinion. I fully support his, and I fully support every single one that's given contribution in every show we do. Because, like I say, it makes the show better when you've got somebody that doesn't agree with what you're saying all the time. Because
Right.
if you got that, then it becomes a little bit one-sided, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Anyways, thank you so much, folks. Please, if you haven't already, hit the like button. Help us support the channel. Become a member if you can for exclusive content. We got a new price coming up, and so it's gonna be good. Also, subscribe if you're new. And tomorrow, Tuesday, we're usually off, but we'll have something going on, I'm sure. So stay tuned for that as well. A lot of videos, short videos as well. So watch those during the day. And thank you so much for your support, everyone. Appreciate it. Love you both. Says Tune for that.
Yeah, I love you too,
Yeah,
buddy.
man. There we go. Look, I love your logo, man. Who made that logo for you? I was gonna
Yeah,
steal
it's
that.
class,
I
isn't
was
it?
gonna copyright that
I yeah,
for
I
this
used to
channel.
have an album cover very similar to that. Is he a rock fan? Let me know if you're a rock fan because
Yeah,
that reminds me of an album cover I used to have.
yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for your support, and we'll be back tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much,
Take care
and
for now.
bye bye.